Lights, camera, action.
Hey guys.
Hey everyone.
Welcome back to the podcast. It is episode 2 of season 2, and today we're going to be covering Pirates of the Caribbean 2, Dead Man's Chest. Thank you guys for tuning in last week. We had a lot of fun doing Ford versus Ferrari. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please consider hitting that thumbs up. If you're listening on Spotify and you haven't left a 5-star review, I would ask that you would consider it. We're having a lot of fun doing this, growing our audience, and we just love you guys. So without further ado, let's get started.
All right. And I will say, we didn't even plan to do 2, 2, and 2.
No, but it worked out great.
It worked out great. Okay. So, like John said, we're doing Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. So this movie was released on June 24th of 2006. It was directed by Gore Verbinski. It's starring... Okay, there's a lot of, lead roles, so I just picked the ones who I thought were the main ones. So I'm sorry if I left any out that I should have put in there. We've got Johnny Depp, Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom. How do you say the guy's name that played Davy Jones?
I believe it's Bill Nighy.
Okay.
Like Nighy.
Okay. Because I didn't want to say Bill Nye, like Bill Nye the Science Guy, because I didn't, because there's a Y at the end.
Yeah, I believe you pronounced the Y at the end, but okay. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Stellan Skarsgård. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. All right. Jack Davenport and Naomi Harris.
Who does Jack Davenport play?
What's his name? James, is it Nottingham? Norrington.
Yes.
What was I thinking? Nottingham?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But yeah, that guy.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
It was distributed by Walt Disney Studios. It had a runtime of 2 hours and 31 minutes. It's rated PG-13. Its budget was $225 million. Box office total was $1.066 billion.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Wow. I mean, the Pirates franchise as a whole has always done phenomenally well at the box office, which I think is a testament to just the genre that it's in. I mean, Johnny Depp obviously makes this movie and franchise. I don't think there's anybody else that can. I mean, this is an ongoing conversation because Disney fired him a couple years ago because of the cancel culture, which was so, silly. And now they're talking about hiring him back. They issued a public apology, but he makes this franchise.
Right.
There is no Pirates franchise without him. But they've always done extremely well at the box office. I didn't realize that this one did $1 billion though. That's crazy.
I know. I was shocked. My first thought when I saw it was people probably just loved the first one so much. Just everybody went so and good. Saw it,
It's solid. Yeah. And I guess I kind of lost my train of thought there. But anyways, I think it is a little bit of a testament to the genre. Definitely to Johnny Depp, cast and crew, everybody that worked on the movies, they did really good. But I think people just like adventure movies, like Indiana Jones, those type movies, the Mummy movies, all those movies always do pretty well. And I think I don't know, there's something about the genre.
Mm-hmm. I just looked it up because I couldn't remember for sure, but this movie did way better than the first one did because
nobody expected the first one
to do that well. Yeah, but I just looked up because I couldn't remember what the box office total was for the first one, and it was $654 million,
which is still insane.
The first one came out twice
in 2003, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Excuse me while I just look this up again.
Yeah,
it was 2003.
2003. That's what I was thinking. So yeah, I mean, $650 million is a lot of money, no matter what time it is, but especially 20 years ago. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I'll move on to fun facts. I have quite a few for this one, so if I get too long, you can cut me off.
No worries.
So first one is that some of the filming on so they filmed on several different islands.
Yeah.
Because I think that was at Johnny Depp's request. But a lot of the filming on the islands was suspended because of Hurricane Wilma. So they had to evacuate to Los Angeles, which if I'm remembering correctly, I believe the first Pirates movie was like a lot of their set was destroyed by a hurricane as well.
It was, and they actually shot on most of the same locations because I talk about it in the production details, but they shoot in LA and like the Caribbean, the Bahamas, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those 3 locations from the filming of the first Pirates to the second Pirates survived 3 hurricanes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
My next fact is that originally the crew of the Flying Dutchman was supposed to consist of only ghosts because, I mean, like, you know, the Flying Dutchman wasn't like this new concept to the movie. Like, it's like this, you know, folk tale, like,
right.
You know, whatever. And I mean, in the tales, all of the crew were like ghosts or spirits or whatever.
Right.
So that was their original plan for the movie. But Gore Verbinski, who directed it, kind of fought against that and made it to be what it is now.
Yeah.
Also,
actually, on that note,
sorry, go ahead.
Interestingly, I didn't talk about it in the production details, so I'm glad you brought it up. But a fun detail about like the crew of the Flying Dutchman and kind of like, I guess, the lore or mythos of them is that the longer you're on the ship, the more sea creature like you become. So, and that's kind of how you distinguish like the veteran crew members from the newer people. So like somebody like Will, obviously he looks like a normal human. And then his father, he's been there for a while, but not as long as the other people. So he's kind of like in between. He has definite like deformities and whatnot, but he's not a full blown like hammerhead shark or anything. And so the people who have been on the ship longer are more sea creature like.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, you can tell, especially with the guy that's like part of the wall. Like,
yes. Yeah. Yep.
So my next one is that, like, still going off of the crew of the Flying Dutchman, Tim Burton actually helped design like what the crew was going to look like.
Really?
Which I guess he like works on a lot of Johnny Depp movies, and I didn't realize that.
Really?
But,
I feel like that's a widely known thing.
Well, I guess I'm not. I've been living under a rock.
No, that's all right. I mean,
well, you know
I
what?
wouldn't say
guess
that
I
we
do feel
watch
like
a lot of Tim Burton movies.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I did know that because did he help with Willy Wonka?
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, I
I'm
knew
pretty
that.
sure Tim
I knew
Burton
that.
directed the newer Willy Wonka.
Oh, well, shows how much
pretty
I know.
much Johnny Depp and Tim Burton have been like a power duo in terms of director and actor for the last 20, probably at this point, 30 years or more.
Okay, well, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one is that it was really difficult to figure out how to animate the Kraken's tentacles. So the animation director told his team of animators to watch the movie King Kong versus Godzilla from the 1960s.
Yes, the old one, not the new one.
Not the new one. Because there's an octopus scene in that movie, so they kind of
there was
took inspiration from that.
In that movie, like it's supposed to be a giant octopus that's in the city, but really, the way they shot it was an actual octopus that was destroying like a miniature city.
Things. Yeah.
So they kind of studied the tentacles and stuff like that.
Yeah. Next one, I thought this was really, really interesting. The texture of Davy Jones' face, because obviously his face is CGI.
Right.
It came from a scanned image of a dirty styrofoam coffee cup.
Yes, I saw that.
So,
I thought that was very odd when I read it.
Yeah.
But
looking at it now, I can kind of see it in like certain like places, just like the texture. So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Also, full size working pirate ships were built for this movie. So both the Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman were like fully functioning ships, like full size, which was really cool too.
Yeah. Yep. I thought that was pretty sweet. I don't believe they made full size ships for the first movie, but they did for this one.
Yes. Next, the scene where Jack Sparrow calls Davy Jones fish face and then sings, the iconic "I got a jar of dirt."
Yes. Yeah.
That was completely improvised by Johnny Depp. That was not scripted.
I believe it.
So I thought that was funny because I love that part.
Yeah.
And then Stellan I always butcher this. Skarsgård, who plays Bootstrap Bill. His makeup took 4 hours to apply.
Yes, and he's actually the only crew member of the Flying Dutchman who used practical effects. Everybody else was
really?
CGI.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because, but wow. Okay, my next one is that for the release of the film, Disney World and Disneyland, because as we talked about last time, like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disney was there before the movies. Like they drew inspiration from that ride for the movies.
Right.
So for the release of the second movie, Disney World and Disneyland both redesigned the Pirates of the Caribbean ride to feature Jack Sparrow, Barbossa, and Davy Jones. And the new ride, quote unquote, premiered the same day as the movie did.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. Two more. One, this movie is banned in China.
Really?
Because of its portrayal of cannibalism.
Oh, okay.
And then my second and last one. Sorry, not second fact. Sorry. My last fact is that this movie was the fastest movie at that time to reach $100 million as a box office. So it reached it within 2 days of its release.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Even today where we have lots of billion-dollar movies, that's really impressive still.
Yeah. And I don't know if that record's been broken or not yet. I would have to assume it has been.
I'm positive that
probably
it has
by
been.
a Marvel movie or something. But as of 2006, it had broken that record.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, like it's still a standard today that like, oh, it had a $90 million opening weekend. Like that's the whole weekend.
Yeah.
That's still like a metric of success or like 100 million, 80 million, 60 million. Like those are all like really good numbers for opening weekend.
Right.
So yeah, that's very impressive.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I've got.
Okay, cool. Before I jump into production details, because I know I'll probably forget later, I have to take a minute to talk about Stellan Skarsgård portraying Bootstrap Bill. Because it still bothers me to this day.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
I don't think it's a problem with his acting or writing. Like the character,
he does a great job.
He does a great job. Character's great, but I don't know. There's something about it that makes me giggle a little bit or takes me out of the movie maybe. But when you watch the first movie, which is my favorite Pirates movie, The Curse of the Black Pearl, whenever Will is on screen, especially with the Black Pearl crew, they all talk about, oh, he's the spitting image of Bootstrap Bill, come back to haunt us, stuff like that. And it's like Stellan Skarsgård looks nothing like Orlando Bloom. Absolutely nothing. And like, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, extend them a little bit of grace because, he's been on the Flying Dutchman for...
So he doesn't look
like
maybe, he would have.
Right. He's maybe been there for... anywhere from 5 to 20 years, we have no idea. But he's disformed. He's kind of, like pale. And so I'm willing to give benefit of the doubt. But even still, like, all I'm saying is Antonio Banderas and Orlando Bloom look so much like each other. Why did they not just cast him? I don't know. It still bothers me to this day because... It's a very easy cast, and nothing against Stellan Skarsgård. He's a phenomenal actor. He does a great job in the role. I enjoy him. He's in the Thor movies. Like, he's a great actor, and he plays the part well, but he does not look like Orlando Bloom in the slightest, and I have a very hard time as a viewer believing that, oh yeah, when he was young, he looked exactly like Orlando Bloom. Like, I don't know. Just takes me out of the movie a little bit.
Have you looked up a picture of him when he's younger?
No.
I haven't either, but I was just curious if you had and still feel that way.
No, I have not. But
I agree completely. Actually, like the first time I watched this trilogy, I thought the same exact thing. I was like, okay, I remember last time that they literally said he looks exactly the same. Now, I will say, I don't know if I share the same opinion as you that Antonio Banderas looks like Orlando Bloom, though.
I feel like he looks enough like him to be his father.
Yeah.
I guess, it's not like he's a twin or anything, but that's all I'm getting at. But anyways.
Okay. I have to say, I'm looking up Stellan Skarsgård when he's young. Still no
Nothing.
resemblance.
Yeah, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's fine. It's such a minor detail. It like doesn't really matter, but it's just, I guess, a personal pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, me too.
But anywho, okay, production details. So when Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl first released, it did extremely well, both critically and financially, because everybody had pretty much written this movie off. You know, it was another Disney movie that was based off of a ride, which we talk about in our episode that we did on Curse of the Black Pearl, which, by the way, if you haven't listened to it, go check it out. I do apologize. That was only our second episode. So if the sound quality is bad or we were a little cringy, we were still figuring it out just like we are right now. But anywho, go listen to it. But everybody had written it off because the first movie Disney did based on a ride was awful. It was an absolute nightmare, and everybody had basically assumed this would be the same, but it did extremely well. So a trilogy was fast-tracked despite the movie originally being planned to be a standalone film. So as they began planning this out, the decision was quickly made to continue the story of Curse of the Black Pearl, and Disney made the decision that they should shoot the next two movies, being Dead Man's Chest and At World's End, back to back. Making planning for the actors, scheduling the writers, everything, it just made life a little bit easier, gave them a longer timetable. And if they ever had to go back and, kind of reshoot or remember what they did on the last film before it released, then everybody was there. So anyways, once the decision was made that they were going to be shooting back to back, the writers locked themselves in a room and bounced ideas off of each other to try and see what would stick. And I just have to say, this is how sequels should be done, in the sense that you actually plan them out. Mm-hmm. This is a pet peeve of mine with like the Star Wars sequel trilogy. They had no idea where that they wanted that trilogy to go. They knew it was Star Wars. They knew that it was going to do good enough that they could just make 3 movies without a problem, that they would make money on them. So they started a journey with no destination in mind, and that's why it turned out the way it did. I mean, the sequel trilogy is extremely divisive among fans because there's really no point to them. And, all I'm saying is plan out your movies if you're going to do a trilogy. Have an ultimate point with them. But anyways, when they were in that kind of room bouncing ideas off of each other, they originally decided that they were going to focus on The Fountain of Youth to be the sequel, but then they ended up pivoting and they decided on Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman. Interestingly enough, they circled back to Fountain of Youth for the 4th Pirates movie, On Stranger Tides. So principal photography began on February 28th, 2005. Shooting locations include Los Angeles, the Dominican Republic, the Caribbean, and the Bahamas. Filming wrapped on May 26th, 2005. And just a little note here on visual effects. Emily talked about this a little bit, but Industrial Lights and Magic decided to take on the challenge of creating Davy Jones, which I have to say, this movie came out in 2005. It's almost 20 years later.
2006.
Well, okay, yes, sorry. It came out in 2006, but it was being filmed and worked on in 2004 and 5.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So, at this point, the visual effects are almost 20 years old.
Very impressive for being that old.
They hold up like it's not even a thought. They look phenomenal. Like, I've never, ever feel at all while watching the movie, that hasn't aged very well.
I will say there is only one that I feel like I could tell that it's CGI.
Which is?
Do you have a guess?
I do, but go ahead.
When the Kraken comes and Jack Sparrow is on the ship and he, has the sword,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. That's really the only part where you can tell.
Yeah, but other than that, I think.
And I'm willing
it's
to cut them
amazing.
slack because for that scene alone, because the rest of the movie, which this movie's kind of long, the rest of the movie has almost an entirely CG crew for the bad guys.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, that in and of itself is like, okay, I'm willing to give you, like, a little bit of slack there because the rest of the movie, like, it looks phenomenal. And you have loads of CGI in it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they did a phenomenal job in doing that. But on that note, Davy Jones was entirely CGI, which Emily touched on earlier. Bill Nighy wore a motion capture suit when shooting on location, which was a change from when they did Curse of the Black Pearl. So if you remember, or go back and listen to it in that episode, in order to create the skeletons and everything, they had to digitally recreate shots that were filmed with the actors on set, and they had to do, like, it was not done maybe the most efficient way by today's standards. And so there was a lot of, like, recreating scenes that had already been done. So they utilized motion capture so that they wouldn't have to do that. Made things a lot faster and easier for them. So Bill Nighy wore a motion capture suit while shooting. And the character was entirely CGI with the exception of one scene. Bill Nighy actually did get physical makeup on for one scene.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Which one?
So he had prosthetic tentacles and everything. It wasn't like a full suit because it was a close-up. But it was the scene where Will goes in to Davy Jones's quarters when he's asleep
sleeping.
And steals the key from him.
Gotcha.
Because it's a really, really close-up shot of the key hanging from a tentacle or whatever, the necklace. And so that's the only scene where he was wearing makeup.
And also, Will has to, like, move the tentacles out of the way, too.
He has to interact with them. And also a fun fact about the Davy Jones tentacles specifically, it was very interesting that ILM was able to set up his tentacles to basically be a simulation. So rather than, like, hand animating where each one would go and stuff like that, they just kind of had a simulated animation in how it would interact with the environment. There were only a handful of scenes where they hand animated how the tentacles would interact with his performance based on if, like, he was using it to smoke a pipe or play the organs or stuff like that. Otherwise, it was just computer generated, like an algorithm, how they would act on screen. So it was very interesting to learn about.
Yeah.
But anywho, that's all I have for production details. So, how would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 100?
Okay. Well, I'm sorry because I really, really, really do need to go back through and see what I rated our other movies. Like, I'm going to write it down.
Yeah.
I will do it because I say it
talk about this every
time,
episode.
And I want to know what I rated the first Pirates movie because I don't like this one as much as the first Pirates movie.
Yeah. But
I still like it.
Give a gut rating, though.
Okay.
Gut rating.
So,
scale of 1 to 100.
This was like, when I was thinking about it earlier, this is just like the first number that popped in my head. And I don't think this was as high as I had the first Pirates movie. So I'm going to give it an 89.
Wow. Okay. That's a very strong score.
Really? Do you think
for my standards?
Do you think it should be less? Like, were you going to go less?
I am, honestly. I don't know. I mean, it's tough for me because I like the Pirates franchise as a whole, and I like this movie. I think Davy Jones is one of the best on-screen villains ever. Like Darth Vader, Thanos, and Davy Jones are some of the best movie screen villains ever. So, that definitely plays into kind of my thought process.
Right.
But he's also the main villain of At World's End, and I think he's phenomenal in that movie too.
Do you like that one better than this one?
I do. There's really only a couple parts of At World's End that I don't like that much.
Which we can talk about when we cover it.
Yeah, we'll cover that next season. But anywho, I like this movie, but Curse of the Black Pearl is my personal favorite. So I guess I kind of measure the other movies based off of that. And for me, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with this movie specifically. There is a lot in here. There's a lot of different stuff going on.
You know what? Can I cut you off for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, I am gonna lower my score to an 87 because I just thought of a couple other scenes that I could have like done without, I guess.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to change it so you
No.
can keep going.
No, you're fine. I really do like this movie. I kind of want to stress that because I don't want to give it a bad score to give the impression that like, or a low score that I don't like it. I really do.
I do too.
But there's just something about it that when I watch it, it doesn't quite feel as maybe satisfying. I don't know if that's the right word, as At World's End does.
Yeah.
And it definitely doesn't hit the same sort of like, I guess, satisfaction that Curse of the Black Pearl hits for me. But overall, great movie. I think I'm going to give it an 83.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was honestly kind of considering 70s.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. And again, that's why I kind of tried to preface it with like, I do like this movie. It's definitely like, I do like it. I'm going to stick with an 83 though.
Okay. All right. So what were some of your favorite scenes then?
That's tough. I really do like the through line of the story of like Jack really not knowing what he wants. You know, he has the compass that will point him to anything his heart desires, and he just chooses to, well, not chooses, but he feels like he's very lost. He doesn't know where to go, what to do. You know, they kind of play on that, like, do we have a heading? And he keeps looking at his compass and it's just spinning. So I think it's interesting to see Jack really unsure of himself and where he's going. And I think the payoff of all the legwork that they do in this movie comes through at the end as well as in the third movie, At World's End. So I don't know. I also like, you know, seeing Will and Elizabeth have to kind of deal with like the complications of their relationship. Like, you know, they stole their wedding day from them. They got arrested. And then, you know, Elizabeth isn't really sure what she wants. And, you know, Will is kind of caught between his father and her. And I will say I do like the storyline of him being committed to trying to free his father from Davy Jones's ship. I think that's really cool.
Yep.
I think overall, it's tough, but one of my favorite scenes, and it's such a small scene. There's probably two that I can think of immediately that I like so much. One of them is when we first see Davy Jones arrive.
That was one of mine too.
And, you know, he's on the ship, and I mean, great entrance, great introduction to the character and start to kind of his story in this world. But
did you know that Davy Jones didn't even physically appear in this movie until an hour into it?
Really?
Yeah.
You know, I totally believe it. And I think maybe that's what's factoring into a little bit of my lower score. I have no problem with like them being on the cannibal island and all that stuff. But ultimately, by the end of the movie, like, yes, I understand it was a plot device and it was important information, but it almost feels unnecessary. And so it is a little bit of a longer movie, and you know, it was funny. Some of the scenes that took place there were some good action pieces and whatnot, but ultimately, I don't feel like it was something that really made or it was like make it or break it for the story.
Right.
You know, I feel like it could have been left out. But anyways, specifically when Davy Jones first shows up and Jack looks in his telescope and he's looking at Davy Jones. And then Davy Jones turns and looks, and then he puts his telescope down and he's right in front of him. Like, that scene is always so cool. Well, I mean, first when he turns, like he's still in the lens and he turns and looks directly at Jack. And then he, you know, he puts the telescope down and then he's in front of him. It's like, that is so cool. I love that. And his character, Davy Jones's character, also like his presence on screen demands attention and respect. Like he commands attention. Like it's so cool. I also I love watching Davy Jones play the organ, and also the theme that they came up with him or for him. Like it is such a cool sound, such a cool song. And yeah, I don't know. I love seeing him play that, especially when you factor in the idea that like he's playing that from a place of like heartache, because he's thinking about Calypso and the love that he had, and you know, he cut his own heart out for her because the love was too unbearable and all this stuff. So it's like he's playing with this sadness and weight, and you can feel it in the performance, where he's just going at it. And I don't know, it's super cool. I love watching that. I actually saw a YouTube video of a guy who played like a legit organ in a church. And it was like a cathedral. So like, you know, it echoed really, really well. And he played that song on there, and it sounds amazing.
I bet.
But anywho, those are two of the scenes that come to mind immediately. What about you?
Well, I was just gonna say, what was the song? What was the movie I said that song reminds me of? Polar Express.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is. There's a song in Polar Express that sounds very similar to the song that like is playing, that Davy Jones plays, and I don't know. I could be imagining it because it's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Express in probably like 15 years or more. Like, yeah, it's been a long time.
Sorry, off topic. But anyways, I had some similar ones written down that you had said, but so one of them was like Will promising to free his dad and that kind of thing. Like I really appreciated, just because like at first like their relationship like seemed very rocky, just because, you know, like his dad had to like give him however many lashes and things, and but just like I appreciated that their bond grew slowly, and that Will promised to free him at the end. Well,
and I think there was some resentment on Will's side of it too, because he refused to believe that his dad was a pirate.
Yes,
that he was a good man. You know, he kind of had this like larger than life view of his dad, which is a cool thing. Like I totally relate. That's how I felt for a long time growing up, is just that like my dad was a superhero. And so like I can understand like if you found something out like that it would like be crushing.
Right.
And then too, that his dad like walked out on him and his mom. And so, you know, finally being reunited, he's probably feeling a lot of emotions.
Right. For sure. And then another one that I had that was similar was when Davy Jones is first introduced, and I mean, I don't have to say anything because you basically said what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, but then another one that I like is the fighting scene between James, Will, and Jack, like the sword fight between all three of them. That is really cool. Yeah. And
I will say there's a great video. One of my favorite YouTube channels, it's called Corridor Crew. They have a show called Stuntmen React. They also have like visual effects artists react and animators react. But anyways, they had the stunt coordinator who directed all the choreography for that stunt, where they do that kind of like 3-person fight.
Yeah.
And
wasn't he a stunt double too for Will? Or am I thinking of a different one?
Yes.
Okay.
He was a stunt double for Will too. Yep. But anyways, I can link that in the description. So if it's of interest to you, you can check it out. But largely everything done in that fight was done practically, even where they're running on the wheel, which I couldn't hardly believe that. But it is very, very cool. Lots of props to the people who did that, because they brought their A game. They did phenomenal.
Yeah. Another fun fact that I saw that I didn't include earlier, but that wheel weighed 1,800 pounds.
Wow.
And was 18 feet tall.
Wow. Yeah.
So anyways, and then the other one that comes to mind that I liked was, like kind of during the fighting scene, I guess, when it's after the crew from Davy Jones or from Flying Dutchman comes onto the island and it starts to chase them and things. When James is over at the. Is it James? Is that his name?
Norrington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't
I'm
saying
pretty
it wrong.
sure.
He's over at the boat and he sees the jar of dirt, which he knows
Has
the
Davy
heart in
Jones's
it.
heart. Yeah.
Just like how he looks at the jar and it doesn't show him taking it out, but the audience is automatically in like, okay, we know what you're gonna do,
Right.
And like just that we're kind of in on it, I guess.
Yeah.
When nobody else knows.
Well, and I like that they don't outright show you
Yes.
too, because even though you're very heavily led to believe that that's what he's doing,
You don't actually know.
you don't know, and it does build some suspense, especially once Jack finally drops the jar and the heart's not in there. It's like,
Right.
okay, so he did do it. You
Yes.
as a viewer, you feel smart and rewarded for putting 2 and 2 together.
Right. Yeah. That was all that I could think of off the top of my head that I really liked. But
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more, but yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I don't know that I have anything else that I want to touch on here. I think I kind of talked about things that like I maybe disliked a little bit. Is there anything you want to touch on as far as disliking or things that could have been done better? Or
I don't know. The reason that I was thinking like back when I lowered my score,
yeah,
I don't love like, I mean, they're fine. Like I'm not saying like I hate these scenes, but I just don't love the scenes when they're on the island with like the cannibals and stuff. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I'm just like, don't love
Yeah.
those parts.
I feel like they definitely played up some of the comedy
Yes.
like aspects of the Pirates franchise, which there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it. Like they have their own unique sense of comedy that works well for Jack and Will, and they play off of each other and everything. But I really did feel like almost that entire like part section of the movie being on Cannibal Island was kind of like, hey, let's put Jack in this weird situation and see how it plays out.
It wasn't really like an integral part of the movie.
Right. Really, the only thing that was important there was that Will had to go on a search for Jack.
Right.
He needed
Yeah.
Jack. And the only other important part of that was that Jack was, he had the black spot. So the Kraken was chasing him. So he was desperately wanting to get on land so that, he wouldn't die.
Right.
So like I get it, but I didn't feel like it was this huge piece of the movie. I guess you said earlier, Davy Jones didn't show up until an hour into the film. And maybe it didn't have to be that way if it weren't for all of the Cannibal Island stuff.
Right. Yeah.
One other thing I do want to touch on, though, that I completely spaced, I'm glad I thought of it now, was the inclusion of the East India Trading Company. So this is kind of like they introduced them in this film as like the overarching villain, kind of the complete opposition to Jack. So, they're trying to control everything, control the seas and everything else. And Jack's big focus is on like freedom and, kind of like it's pirate's life for me. I do what I want whenever I want and go wherever I want. And that's kind of like they're opposed to that. And so it's a very interesting thing that builds kind of in the background through the movie that has a really big and awesome payoff at World's End, which is probably why I would tend to lean towards that movie more of like liking it better, just because everything that they set up in this movie gets paid off at World's End. However, one thing that's interesting, this was a deleted scene that did not make it into the movie, and they didn't touch on it in At World's End. Really the only thing that they talk about is when Will is turning to Cutler Beckett, and Beckett has like the pirate brand, and he just says like, yes, we know each other. We've left our marks on each other. Well, I think it was supposed to happen in At World's End. Maybe it was this movie. I don't remember for sure. But I know that a deleted scene was that Jack Sparrow was, maybe it's supposed to be an At World's End, but him and Cutler Beckett were having a conversation, and you find out that before he was a pirate, Jack Sparrow was a merchant sailor who worked for East India Trading Company.
Oh.
And that he was basically a part of the slave trade. That's what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And so he started setting slaves free. And Beckett basically says, like, you lost our merchandise and stuff like that. And he says, people aren't cargo, mate, something like that. And so his whole kind of story arc is that the, people, you can't trade people. That's not okay, which is actually inspired from a real life pirate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forget which pirate it was. It may have been Blackbeard. I don't remember for sure. Blackbeard was a real pirate in history, but that was a big thing back in this time period of history, that like these trading companies, and East India Trading Company was a real historic company. Mm-hmm. That, they were sea merchants, and that was the way of the world. That's how they were connected, making lots and lots of money, transporting stuff. Well, that included people. And at one point, like I said, I think it was Blackbeard, so I'm just going to say Blackbeard decided that he didn't want to do that anymore. And so he set the entire, fleet of people that he was supposed to be shipping free, and enlisted them as his, ship hands. And then he ended up becoming a pirate and was highly, highly successful because they were very loyal to him, because they felt that, he set us free, he values and respects us. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to touch on it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Cool. All right. Well, does that wrap up this episode?
I think so.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us again. Next week, we are going to be reviewing Batman Begins, the very first Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale Batman movie. We are going to be having a guest in the studio. It is my big brother, Josh, who joined us last season for our Gladiator episode. So you guys can look forward to that. We're really excited about covering it. And it's just in time for Halloween, too, which, Batman Begins, the villain is Scarecrow. It lines up perfectly with Halloween. Mm-hmm. So we got a little bit of synergy there. But anyways, you can look forward to that. If that's something that you want to watch in preparation, it is streaming on HBO Max. Otherwise, you might have to rent it from Amazon Prime. But we look forward to having you guys join us for that episode, and we hope you have a good rest of your week.
See you later.
Bye, guys.